the funniest story was Shaquille O'Neal. He was with the Cavaliers at the time. He moved and was there with LeBron. And I mean, it wasn't, but probably 5 minutes after their bus rolled in, and then I'm getting them their key cards and getting everybody kind of up into the elevators and everything, that this big giant, it looks like a kind of a money truck, but it's a limo, right? For a gentleman's club in Dallas. Yeah. And it shows up, and then sure enough, it's just like, I don't even think he went up to his room. Going from a couple $100,000, I think, to tens of millions is what we ended up doing. But can't say exact numbers. We had built some businesses to being pretty successful, right? But this was a whole different level when you're going to a publicly traded giant $1 billion IAC that owns Vimeo and all these other big TripAdvisor and all these huge companies.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Blueprint. It's Brandon with today, Evan Myers. He is an entrepreneur in multiple facets. He's going to tell you how he kind of made that journey all the way through each one of those and then where he's going to net out at the end. So stick around. We'll see what he's got to say. Evan, thanks for coming and sitting with us. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Usually when we get into this, we just start talking about like kind of who you are and where you're from. So if you want to, are you from Dallas? Is that?
No, I'm actually from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
Okay.
So small town Oklahoma, not Broken Bow. Making sure I clarify that. Everybody in Dallas knows Broken Bow now, but they don't know Broken Arrow. It's outside of Tulsa. Okay. Kind of a suburb of Tulsa.
Are Broken Bow and Broken Arrow, are they from the same tool there? Or is that their sister cities? Or
no, it's
nothing?
Way far apart. Nothing. Yeah, it's just similar names. Yeah. One's turned into a tourist area for people in Dallas.
Log Cabin City,
popular.
baby.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's awesome. You go to Broken Bow at all?
You know what's funny? I've never been. I've got one of the attorneys I work closely with has some houses there, some rental houses. So we've talked about going up and renting one of his houses a couple different times. We just haven't made it up. I think our kids would love it, but
it's great, man. It's up at the. It's really nice. It's peaceful. It's a little cooler than it is here most of the year, anyways. But the houses and the cabins are like super upscale. I was expecting
Yeah, the VRBOs that you go through, they're nice. Some of them have like arcade rooms.
Yes.
There's one we looked at that had like a slide in it, like a second story, first story slide. It's kind of, it's wild. But
what does Broken Arrow have that's so special?
Oh man, not sure. No, it's it's a Tulsa suburb, so it'd be kind of it's kind of like a Plano to Dallas kind of deal relationship, right? It's just outside of there. And, when I was growing up there, it was pretty small. There was still just a ton of new construction and everything happening because it was really, really new and being built up. But now it's pretty well built up out there. But not, there's nothing crazy going on in Tulsa.
Oh, I don't know. You guys got the Chili Bowl, right?
Yeah. I think they've got that going. And, there's a lot of golf courses and there's a lot of, there's casinos now. I guess that's the biggest thing they've got. You got all the casinos up there, but other than that, there's nothing too wild. The Bass Pro Shops, I think, were one of the first things that.
Now you've made it.
Yeah. It was like when that went in, which was right by my house, the second house after we moved the second time. It was right there, so it was like that was a big deal, man. That was huge.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So
you lived there your whole life?
Yeah, lived there. My whole life, ended up going to Oklahoma State for college, was a hotel restaurant major. Not sure how, I know how I got into that. I decided I worked at golf courses. So in high school, growing up, played a lot of soccer, was full-time, traveling club soccer team kind of stuff. And then as soon as I hit 16, ended up getting a job at a golf course there. Indian Springs Country Club is what it was called at the time. And decided I liked working more than playing soccer and making money and doing that sort of stuff. So kind of just started working from there and then ended up going to Golf Club of Oklahoma, which was a real nice course up there in Broken Arrow, and just worked at the golf courses, and then eventually graduated high school and went to Oklahoma State. And so the goal with the hotel restaurant degree was that I wanted to work and be kind of like a GM or hospitality and work at some of those golf clubs. I got to see kind of a interesting side at Golf Club of Oklahoma. There was a management group. And so those guys would come in every once in a while, and they had cabins out there, and they'd stay in the cabins. And I always thought that would be kind of neat to bounce around from golf course to golf course, managing, different aspects of it. So that was kind of the idea behind the hotel restaurant major. Didn't really flesh out. Worked at the Crescent after college, moved down to Dallas, and ended up getting my first job at the Crescent Hotel. So
that's a nice one.
Yeah, it was super nice. And so I did an internship there a couple different summers, leading up to it. So that's kind of how I got the gig there. But I did that for a couple years, and then quickly realized it's going to be hard to have the lifestyle I want working at the hotel. So ended up moving out of that a little bit. But it was,
a lot of people find out. A lot of people find out when they work in hospitality that they are working on the times where everybody else is off.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And it becomes not so fun, right? Because you can't do anything with your friends because you're always opposite schedules.
You hit the nail on the head, man. We had so my business partner and best friend Brandon we graduated. He graduated a little bit earlier than I did, so he came down to Dallas first. He's from Flower Mound area, Dallas area, and I came down. I did like a little half lap. I graduated in December, so came down after that and had the job lined up at the Crescent. So started working there, and he was in wine sales, and he was making a ton of money out of college. I can't remember, it was a lot right at the time, and I'm making $25,000 a year maybe, right? And I'm doing a couple different roles at the hotel and working overnight shifts because the overnight shift people never. They would, you'd hire some and then they'd leave, right? That's a hard shift to fill. So we would always kind of rotate through the core group of people we had there at the time. And so, it was hard because I would be, especially on the weeks where I was doing overnight, him and our other roommate, Brad at the time, they're all going, they're making money, they're going out, they're having fun. And here I am like going to bed at the time.
Ramen noodles.
I'm eating ramen noodles. I literally would, my on my budget, I had it set to where I would go buy some like penne pasta, tomatoes, and the canned chicken, and use some of the olive oil or whatever. And that was like a meal that would get you by for 2 or 3 days, right? Yeah. And then luckily at the Crescent, they had like an employee cafeteria, so I would kind of sneak a couple different meals in there. You're only supposed to get one per shift, but I'd show up a little early, get my lunch taken care of, and then also have the dinner meal. And so, you just get scrappy when you're on a budget like that. And, but no, it was fun. Cause then, you'd have the weeks where I didn't have to go in until, 3 o'clock or whatever, 3 to 11 shift. And, on those ones you go out at night cause you don't have to be up very early. So that was always good.
Yeah.
So it had its positives and negatives, but man, I saw there was a lot of very interesting, a lot of cool stories out of that. I ended up, not only was I working at the, front desk, kind of managing the front desk side of things, but going into kind of managing the check-in, check-outs for all the sports teams that stayed there. And that was the coolest part because all the NHL and NBA teams stayed there at the time. I'm not sure if they still do or not, but so that was part of the coolest thing is kind of working with the sports teams, doing the check-in, check-out process and kind of seeing behind the scenes of what that looks like. And I mean, it's just wild stuff from Kobe's private security guard and coming in a couple days early and making sure his room's
ready to
par and, there's no cameras or whatever else she was checking at the time and all this, you just see all sorts of crazy stuff. What wines the coaches want in their rooms and it's all sorts of wild stories. But
did you ever take the guys out on the town?
I never took him out on the town. They already had that well organized. Okay. It was, the funniest story was, Shaquille O'Neal, he was with the Cavaliers at the time. He moved and was there with LeBron. And, it wasn't, but probably 5 minutes after their bus rolled in and I'm getting them their key cards and getting everybody kind of up into the elevators and everything, that this big giant, it looks like a kind of a money truck, but it's a limo, right? For a gentleman's club in Dallas. Yeah. And it shows up and then sure enough, it's just like, I don't even think he went up to his room. I think the bags went up to the room, but he just got straight on the bus.
Left.
And it's party time. And I don't know who else went with them. But man, it was, they've got that down pretty well. They know what they're doing when they come into town. But it's fun to see a lot of good stories out of that.
So you had to get out of that as soon as possible, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it was that was tough. It was tough. Well, it was rough because, like I'll never forget, Brandon and I were at like a golf shop one time, and again, I'm eating like noodles and canned chicken or whatever, and he's making pretty good money, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to buy this new set of golf clubs," and I'm like, "What? How are you doing that? Like, that's wild. These are $1,000 or whatever." I thought that was that was one of those moments where like I got to figure out something else. Like the fact that I can't even buy a set of clubs or do whatever, that's not any way that's going to support what I want to do for the rest of my life.
But you got to see Shaq, dog.
Got to see Shaq. Oh man, I'll never forget standing there one morning, kind of guiding him into where their breakfast was. And him and LeBron are running full speed at me, kind of like joking around, like who's going to get into the breakfast buffet line first. And they're coming full speed. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm 6'2.5", 6'3" almost. And I'm thinking, there's no way I could take a charge from either of these guys. I would die. Like they're massive humans. Yeah. It's pretty wild. So so it was fun to see, but wasn't going to support the lifestyle I wanted.
Well, so you said you stopped soccer. You started working hospitality at golf courses. Yeah. Did you pick golf up then, or you had already been playing golf before that?
Yeah, I had dabbled in golf a little bit before then, but, didn't really have, in Broken Arrow, there wasn't a lot of public courses. There was one, and, my dad got me kind of like a secondhand set of golf clubs and a couple lessons with a lady out there that was one of the teaching pros. And so I had goofed with it, but not really, gone full steam because I was still focused on soccer and traveling soccer and stuff. So that was kind of the primary focus. And so no, I when I started working at the clubs though, is when I really picked it up, to your point. So it's, I'd get a couple free lessons from the pros and hey, try this or, whatever. Cause they'd come down at night when you're picking the range and stuff like that and help you out. So yeah, I didn't really pick it up until probably 16 years old, something like that. Yeah.
You played ever since?
Yeah, played ever since. Took a little bit of a break during college. Again,
you didn't have no clubs.
Didn't have any clubs. Didn't have any money at college either. So it was we just never played. I think when I was a rush chairman for my fraternity one summer, which was a great gig because you're kind of just recruiting kids to join the fraternity, and then you're taking them out and stuff. So we took them golfing a lot. So that's really when the golf game picked up quite a bit there in college. But other than that, that was about it. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you got through that, you got through college, got into Dallas, started doing the hospitality side, said, I got no money right at the end of the day. So I got to make a change. And what was that change?
Yeah, there was a moment in time, my business partner, Brandon, was doing the wine thing and he was kind of unhappy doing that, even though he was making pretty decent money.
He's just flexing all over. You said this is not even good enough.
If you know anything about that business, it's pretty cutthroat in the fact that you got to get your wine to the front and get everybody else's wine to the back, right? Like you want yours sold, right? That's how they get paid. So it's pretty cutthroat on that side of the things. And so I think he just was getting tired of it. So his dad at the time had just taken over or purchased an HVAC warranty company from Brandon's grandpa. And, he came home one day and we were sitting there and he was just like, there's an opportunity we could go maybe work for that company. And they have, they're just starting basically. They had a couple of customers at the time.
You guys are living in the same house?
Living in the same townhome, yeah. And he was like, but there's an opportunity where we could go work for him and basically go sell this warranty, these third-party warranty contracts to HVAC contractors across the country. And I think we can, basically get everything but Texas because his uncle was kind of working in the Texas market at the time. And so I was like, well, it's not much of a pay cut from what I'm getting now. So why didn't try it, right? You never know. So it took kind of a flyer on that deal. And, I had no idea what an air conditioner was at the time. didn't know what a warranty was. I had no idea, right? Like
didn't know anything about seasonality.
Didn't know nothing. It's just, you know, I knew that you had one on your house, like most homeowners do. And, you know, I always thought it was a Honeywell system. You just, everybody thinks it's because a Honeywell is the thermostat, right? So that was about it. And so we would go up to his dad's house and kind of sit at the kitchen table and go through, you know, okay, air conditioning 101, and we'd start watching YouTube videos, and so we were just kind of teaching ourselves a little bit. And, you know, the deal we made was basically on a draw, and I think we split the draw. So it was like a $45,000 draw split in half. So it was not much money at the time, big pay decrease for him. And, you know, like I said, not much of a change for me. So I was like, why not, you know? And, you know, our very first trip was up to Oklahoma. We thought, man, this is going to be so easy. We took the book that it was just, at the time, it was basically like a Kinko's printed off, like, you know, Word document of all the different plans that you could sell. Right. And, so we drove up to Oklahoma, and we're like, we're going to sell a ton of these today. Right. This week's going to be great. So, man, we had so many doors shut on our face, people kicking us out. And, I didn't, you know, I had never done sales before, and that was all Brandon did. So I was just like, just normal. Was this like,
so he's laughing
like?
You?
Yeah. He's like, is this what it's like? How's this go? He's like, we got to figure out a different solution. This isn't going to work. And so, you know, we came back and licked our wounds a little bit. And,
you guys were walking together doing this?
Yeah. Together. Cause we didn't know what we were doing. This was like week 2 of being at the company.
So you look like a bunch of Mormons showing up to the front door.
Pretty much. Yeah. With a bunch of Kinko's printed, you know, the ring binders that you can get made up, just kind of like, hey, you know, here's these plans. You guys use these? And the funny thing is, there was a company back in the day that had kind of screwed a bunch of contractors over because they, you know, at a high level, they were selling these agreements to people, but then not putting the money aside. And so almost like a Ponzi scheme kind of deal. Right. And so that had just kind of happened as we were kind of coming into it. And so we were meeting a bunch of the guys that were super pissed that they had lost money selling those things. Right. And so that didn't help. That was, you know, but it helped in a way that contractors had started using service agreements, labor warranties, you know? And so, anyways, it's, we had a lot of doors shut in our face and got kicked out of a lot of offices, but came back and regrouped. And, you know, I think Brandon was like, you know, listen, in wine, it all goes through distribution, and then it's easier to get in. Let's go set up some distribution. And we had spent a couple, you know, year or whatever, also trying to get into dealers direct and just cold calling, emailing, you know, sales 101 type stuff. Right. And, it's just tough because, you know, they're getting hit up from a million different ways like everybody else is. And so that didn't work very well. So we set up some distributor partnerships, and once we did that, things clicked. That was kind of like the aha moment for us. And we had one particular distributor that we met with that said, listen, this is great, but just mark them up and then give us, you know, a little bit. And then I have something to incentivize my guys, you know, my territory managers to go out and sell this thing. So we were like, sure. And so we did that. And then that distributor kind of helped us open up doors for other distributors. And then it was just kind of a snowball, and it became like Brandon would set up the meetings. I'd do the demos, close the deal. He'd, you know, get the contract done, and then I'd do more demos for their team and launch it. And then we'd both kind of travel out and travel around with their TMs and help, you know, spread the word and get the dealers going on the new platform and kind of introducing them to it and stuff. And so there was a couple of years of just straight traveling the country, which was kind of fun, kind of seeing different parts of the country.
As a young guy,
sales reps. Yeah. I traveled a lot with what's funny is going back to the golf stuff. We traveled with our golf clubs a lot because we had manufacturer reps for a little while, and, you know, there's a lot of manufacturer reps and TMs that, you know, you get done making sales calls, you know, at 3-4 in the afternoon, and the dealer's not going to see you after that. Right. And so it was like, well, what do you do? Well, let's go play 9 holes or do something like that. So we traveled with our clubs quite a bit, which was really fun. And,
got to see a lot of courses.
Yeah. A ton of courses. And, you know, that was the first time we played Pebble Beach, was with one of our manufacturer reps out there. And, out in California, they had, you know, mentioned, hey, we're going on our trip to see contractors, we're going to be going right by it. And then we have a free day. I think they always had free days set up for this stuff. And it was like, if you can get it set up, we'll pay. Right. So we went and played Pebble Beach. That was our first time. That was fun.
You ever think about what if you had not met this one guy that said, just mark it up?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, all the time. That's what's funny is like, and even today, like yesterday, we kind of had an inflection point with one of the businesses we have going right now. And I think there's, as you know, kind of fast forwarding to entrepreneurship a little bit now, owning companies, you know, there's always some sort of inflection point where you go back and go, that was the moment that, like, if we hadn't done this or taken this risk, that's, you know, we wouldn't have gotten where we gotten, or maybe you end up a different direction, but you can always look back at those inflection points for sure. And
do you feel a lot of those are luck, or do you feel like you took the right path to get to that point?
Yeah, that's a great question. My wife and I talk about it all the time, even with Brandon, business partner. Like, if I didn't end up, because I was going to go to UNLV was one option, right, for college, and we couldn't afford it. And my mom was like, "Listen, this ain't gonna happen."
Love you, bud.
Yeah, ain't gonna happen. And so I was like, okay. And my brother had gone to OU, and I had gone visiting him quite a bit. So it was like, well, OSU is kind of not. It's the, you know, they're a little rivalry there, right? So I was like, well, I got an OSU, I'll go to OSU, and that's fine. We can do that route. And so I always think, like, if I wouldn't have gone to OSU, would I have met Brandon? Would we have gone down this journey together? Or like, what would I have done? You know, if I went to Vegas, would I still be out there? Would I be running some sort of hotel out there? You know what I mean?
Would you be a gambling addict?
Yeah, I'd just be running Caesars, or who knows? Maybe, like you said.
Yeah. The butterfly effect is a really strange thing to really go down the rabbit hole on.
Yeah, it's wild. And you look at some of these people, you know, like the Elon Musks of the world, and some of these guys that have created some crazy stuff, and you're thinking, like, what are their inflection points look like? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy, because could be luck, it's fate. I don't know. It's, you know.
I think about that because a lot of people, and especially one of the reasons we do this podcast, is because there's so many people out there that don't feel like they have it inside of them. They're not made a certain way to be able to make a company or be an entrepreneur. I've heard this so many times. I'm not that kind of person. Like, those guys are just special. And I always say, well, we're just hard-headed. You know, we just don't give up, you know, at the end of the day. But there's also times where we drive ourselves, like, there's some luck points in there, but you drive yourself to put yourself in that position. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I start to think about it when it comes to people like you. And it sounds like you kind of agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's definitely there's definitely personality traits, I think, to be an entrepreneur that you've got to have. And I've got this obsession with watching, like, the Nick Saban stuff. I don't know if you ever get into that, but some of the things he talks about with, you know, mediocrity will never agree with, you know, high achievers and that sort of stuff. And not that people that are entrepreneurs are not high achievers. It's just, you know, I think there's some personality traits in there for folks that, you know, risk taking is obviously one of the biggest ones. Like you said, stubbornness, the ability, you know, I think there's a little slice of impatience you could throw in there. And ego, ego a little bit, willingness to fail. You know, I think that's kind of a funny one that goes along with ego, like kind of opposites, but they work together a little bit, because, you know, to some extent, you've got to be able to fail before you succeed. And those are, like, when I talk about the inflection points, it's, you know, there's a lot of things that have gone wrong multiple times before they went right, you know?
Correct.
And, you know, starting different companies, all the companies that we've done, we've started from scratch. And there's a lot of businesses out there that will go buy existing companies and then turn them over or improve them, make them better, right? But everything we've done has been started from scratch, which I think is a different animal. But again, I think you have to have those personality traits to kind of be able to do it,
to be a builder,
to pull that trigger. Yeah. And so, as you know, and I went through it, like, personally, and I remember thinking one night at the Crescent, like, am I going to go do this thing? And, like, is that the right path? What is it going to lead to? And it's, you know, it led to some of the stuff I've got going today. And So I'm glad I did it, but I just, you're sitting there thinking that's a pretty big jump from what I went to school for and what I'm doing now,
Well, so you're a year into your golfing, traveling, showing, the business. You met this one guy, things started to pop off. So you're into that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we took that company from, I can't say the numbers, but it had a couple of customers at the time when we started. This is like 2010-ish, to doing quite a bit of business across the country, talking thousands, going from a couple dealers to thousands of dealers.
$1 billion.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, a lot of. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a big jump. Going from a couple $100,000, I think, to tens of millions is what we ended up doing. But can't say exact numbers. But so we did that, and throughout that journey, again, inflection points. There were some things that changed over with our underwriters at the time, and we saw the opportunity to start our own kind of obligor companies and administration companies. And for those that don't know, those are kind of like the companies you have to have legally behind the scenes when you're offering kind of a warranty product that's out there. And so we started those on our own. Myself, Brandon, and his dad kind of formed these different entities to kind of stand up our own kind of underwriting, so to speak, right? Almost doing it ourselves, and working with an insurance company to offer it. So we started those, and you kind of fast forward to 2015-ish. We're new homeowner. Brandon and I are both kind of new homeowners at that time.
No longer eating ramen noodles.
No longer eating ramen noodles. We had grown that company, and we're doing real well. And we were like, listen, we formed these companies. What can we do outside of HVAC? Because we'd also we had traveled the country for 4 years, seen a lot of people, and things were set up. That company was in motion, right? And I think you get to a certain point with some of these companies where it's the snowball effect, right? It just kind of things continue to build, and so that had been done, and we were looking at like, okay, what else could we get into? And so it was like, well, we're both new homeowners. We have an administration company. What else could we do with warranty? And we were like, the home warranty business sucks. It was horrible. It was bad. American Home Shield, Choice, all those they had horrible reputations at the time. And we had home warranties and had similar experiences. And so we're like, let's do this, right? Let's just go into home warranty. And we wanted to do it a little differently. So we said, let's Uberize it. At the time, Uber was brand new to Dallas. And so it was, we were like, let's build an app to where homeowners can book their, file their claims and track their pro and, pay a service fee or whatever they need to do. And then it keeps a record of all the repairs on there for you. And then, then we kind of had another inflection point, one day where we're sitting there going, well, we have all this built, and we had started using it, right? It started going, which was good. And we said, well, why not just offer, if we have the service network and we have the app that everybody's using, why not offer it to homeowners to just book regular repairs? Like they don't have to have a home warranty. You could just, if your water heater broke, go download our app and book it through there. Right. And so, Angie's List and TaskRabbit and some of those things had been out a little bit and, for homeowners, but nothing like what we were doing necessarily at the time. And so, that's kind of the journey we went down and built our own software, built the application.
Who was in charge of that, by the way?
I kind of did all the design of the application and everything. I remember staying up multiple nights until 2 a.m. on my computer, designing the screens. And then I would work with an engineering team overseas that I had kind of found through Upwork, and then that's a whole nother journey of like, oh my God, we went through 5 or 6 guys until you find the ones. And I still work with some of them today, so I've been working with them for 10 years or whatever now overseas. And, it's, you go through a lot of bad apples and then eventually you find the ones that are good and then you hold on tight. Right.
and hope they don't outgrow you.
Exactly. And so, so I kind of did the design. Those guys would build it. Brandon was always more on kind of the ops and that sort of thing. And so, it was a great fit. So we opened that platform up, and then again, another inflection point was as we were running and gunning, we realized that relying on the third party network is also one of the reasons why, Home Shield and some of those other warranty companies had bad rap, because you got to think about, they're dispatching service out to a large network of guys that have to also provide for themselves in a way where they're doing their own business. So the warranty is really supplementing. That's the warranty service is usually for guys that want to supplement their current business, or they're starting off and they need help getting going and get jobs and revenue, right? And so we just said, let's start our own W-2 service company. We'd never had a service company, never run a service company. So we were like, well, let's start Fix Services. And we started with HVAC, plumbing, electrical, ended up getting into pool and spa, garage door, locksmith. The whole
roofing.
No roofing.
Okay.
No roofing. Actually,
that's usually the gamut.
Yeah. The roofing's a big one. We never got into that. We should have. But so we brought on our own W-2 service company. And that was one of the things that really helped us take off on the Fix side was having that, because there was nobody out there in the home warranty space. And typically home warranties are sold through real estate agents when you close on your house, right?
Yeah.
So our sales team, it was kind of like shooting fish in a barrel, I'd say, of being able to go out and say, listen, we have a home warranty company that has an application that makes it easy for your homeowners. And, oh, by the way, we also own a lot of the service that we do. We would still dispatch out to third-party companies if we had overflow, but we were handling ourselves and nobody else was doing that. So it was unique, and real estate agents loved it because they're getting a way better experience, and we're kind of owning, from a vertical integration standpoint, the whole process, right? And so that kind of was one of the things that helped Fix take off. And fast forward a couple years of doing that, and expanding into Austin, Houston, San Antonio, kind of throughout Texas. We had raised a little bit of money from some guys in the Park Cities and local Dallas guys. And we were going out for our Series A. And just by happenstance, I think one of the guys that was, we worked with one of our buddies, Brian Chambers, kind of helped on the financing side, because Brandon and I had never raised money for anything before. So when we raised the local money, he kind of helped us do that, and then was always kind of on board as an advisor to help through some of that business strategy. Because if you've ever raised money, it's a whole different ball game once you do that. Yeah. So so he helped out on that front. And I think somebody that he knew had a meeting with IAC, which was the parent company of Angie Home Services, Angie's List and Home Advisor. And they had mentioned something about looking at home warranty. And Brian's buddy was like, oh, you should talk to my buddy, Brian. He's involved with one called Fixed. And then that's how we got a meeting set up with them. And then, we were going to raise a Series A, and we did a demo, and then, we get a call a couple of days later. It's like, all right, well, we really like this and we want to move forward, but we don't invest. We just buy. So we'd have to buy you. We want you to come to New York and talk to the IAC team, and they want to meet you guys and all that. And so,
only fought first class, just so you know. And,
we should have at the time. We're just like, sure. Yeah. Right. Okay. And so, we had, at the time, we had built some businesses to being pretty successful. Right. But this was a whole different level when you're going to a publicly traded giant $1 billion IAC that owns Vimeo and all these other big, TripAdvisor and all these huge companies. And, we go get a hotel, we stay down there, and I was probably as nervous as I've ever been walking down the street up to their building. And you walk in and you're like, oh man, this is a whole different level. And you get up to the floor of the executive, this is all the C-suite of publicly traded IAC, which is a giant company, and beautiful conference room. And you're sitting down and you're like, how did we get here? Right? Yeah. But it's all those, going back to it, it's all those little decisions that you make along the way, I think that get you there.
It was this one guy, we were sitting at a table with him, and he was like, you know what, just mark it up.
Yeah.
You know, you mark it up, and there's a little for all of us in there.
Yeah. Mark that warranty up. And then, it's just kind of crazy. It's wild how one little thing can waterfall down to something like that. Yeah. So we had, that was a very nerve-wracking meeting, but
we'll talk about that meeting. What was that like? Did you sit at a big table? There's 2 of y'all on one side and 70 people on the other side, or what's this like?
So first of all, they have the IAC building in New York. If you look it up, is Barry Diller is the chairman, CEO. I think I'll probably butcher that, but he's the top of the top for it. It's his company, IAC, and he's got a big sailboat, and so he built the building, and I believe it's shaped like a sail, right? And so it's a gorgeous building. We're at the top of it, and you're in this big, oak table conference room with really nice leather pads and pens, and all what you would imagine at a publicly traded company conference room would look like, right?
Yeah,
and huge windows overlooking. I don't have to go Hudson. What's that? Whatever whatever that body of water is right there. I should know that, but I don't. But
dirty.
Yeah. So we're sitting there, and it's just wild. You've got some of the guys that we've had on calls before, and all great people, real nice, and you kind of think that it's almost like you think you're going into like Wolf of Wall Street or something like that kind of meeting, or something that you've seen from the 90s, one of the Wall Street movies, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't like very, very, they're all wearing suits, and we were somewhat dressed up, but all really nice guys and girls and gals, and just very casual conversation, which was kind of surprising. And so when you get done with it, you walk out, you kind of take a deep breath, and you're like, okay, well, they're just people like we are, and they're just, they're just doing their job like we are. And so there's, just because they're here at this level doesn't mean they're any different. Right. And so you kind of get back into the reality of that versus, kind of whatever you built it up in your mind of like, okay, this is going to be this big, scary thing. You know what I mean?
Are they, when you get, I'm thinking of what I'm doing myself, right?
Yeah.
Me and my buddy, we're going into this building. It's a cool shaped building. We walk in, go to the elevator, and I go, and there's all these numbers, and I hit the very top one.
Yeah.
And I look over, and I'm like, we made it,
Oh yeah. We took a selfie when we left in front of the building, it was big day in New York kind of thing. But
so were they interviewing you at the table, or was it like?
Pretty much. I think that's what it was. It was more, we went through a ton of questions operationally, and because they have their CFO and their COO and all of these people that are kind of making the decision. But it was more of kind of a discovery type meeting is how it's posed. But at the end of the day, they're interviewing you. Right. They want to know if we're going to spend, a lot of money buying this company from you guys, are you the right ones?
Right.
And Brandon and I talk about that a lot today, is like, when you look at these companies, you're investing in the owners and the operators of these companies more than the companies themselves at the end of the day. Cause you got to make sure that, and again, I'll go back to the Nick Saban stuff I watch all the time. You got to make sure you got the right people on the bus.
Yeah.
And the owners are where it starts, right? So if they're not right, the people below them aren't going to be right.
Right.
Yeah.
So they at that point, they give you an offer at the table, or they're just like hanging out?
No, it was kind of, we went through the full soup to nuts of what we were doing. I think I don't know if we ran a demo in that call. I don't think we did. But just a lot of questions about the nitty gritty details that have not gotten passed around in the demo. And at the time we had started discovery. So there was a lot of like, files sent to them that their acquisitions team had kind of gone through. So they were wanting questions on that, like, what's this NDA, or what's, you have, this is built this way. Why'd you do that? There's a lot of little things like that I think they were trying to figure out. But no, the offer didn't come until I think it was a week later, and I was sitting in I think it was a birthday party for someone in my wife's family, and we were sitting I was in the parking lot of the Mi Casina in Highland Park Village there, and sitting in my car, and I was late to whatever was going on because they were already started, and I'm just sitting in the car, not missing this phone call. And so, we get on with the CFO, and he kind of says, hey guys, we love everything you saw. Love you guys. Here's where we're at. Probably the best you're going to get, very straight. Yeah. What you would expect. So now you get into like what you expect from negotiating with like a publicly traded company kind of thing. So, take that call and then you're just kind of like, wow, all right, this could really happen. And so, then it was a matter of kind of going back and talking to our investor group and saying, listen, like, we all invested, here's where the company's at. And at the time, the company needed more funding, right? It's just, we had started to scale quickly. And anytime you start a business that you want to scale quickly, you're worried about the top line, not the bottom line. And that was kind of what everybody had told us, from the investors, the original investors, to even after, we started with Angie after they purchased us. It was all top line. Don't worry about bottom line right now because you need to be hockey stick growth, right? And so it was one of those things where, you're burning through a lot of cash doing it that way, but you're also scaling fairly quickly. So it's kind of a give and take scenario, but we needed more money at the time. And so that's when you get into the hard conversations with the investors because it had happened quick. I mean, it was only like 2 years into us doing fixed. Yeah. And when you invest in something like that, I think the original investors were under the impression it was going to be more of like, okay, let's do series A, B, C, D. You want your money to grow throughout those different series rounds. And so this was not the case. So, they were getting taken out early, which was going to, lessen how much they were going to make on the deal. But we also needed to raise more money. I don't think they were not in the position where they wanted to put any more than what they had in, which is typical, right? For, call it angel and seed investors. Right. So yeah, it was kind of that conversation of, right, well, we either got to put more money in, go raise the series A or sell to them. And, one of the things we did that was smart, I would say, is we continued down the series A route while we were doing that because we also didn't know if like it was all going to happen or not. Right. So that was one of the things we did that, was very important. So we still had kind of the series A conversations, but, at the end of the day, we kind of all huddled up and decided, let's take the deal and kind of see where it goes. So ended up selling to Angie and then kind of taking a wild ride from there. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you say I needed top line money and you're making investments back into the company, right? Are you buying employees? Are you buying software? Are you buying like buildings and furniture? Like what are you really needing money for to show them your growth?
Yeah, it's employees, it's software, it's we had kind of I would say we had an overkill of an office down in Knox Henderson. The original investor group had a small office in there, and this space came available. And tech companies, when you think of a tech company, you think of that like really cool office with free cereal and food and drinks and all that stuff. Yeah. And so we had kind of built that. And to be honest, it worked really well. When you entertain people there, you get, they see there's a perceived value from that. The employees loved it. You're in the heart of Knox Henderson. The office was awesome. It's, there's a lot of value that you get out of that. And so, but it's expensive, right? It was the most expensive, lease or contract I think Brandon and I had ever signed for something like that. And so, all those little things chew through it. I'll say from our standpoint, Brandon and I never took a salary while we're at fixed. So it wasn't to pay us. I think a lot of the things that you see in companies and with some entrepreneurs is that when they raise money, they also start to pay themselves. And that's one of the things you got to be careful about because it's okay to pay yourself. But, we've seen it with some deals where it's, these days where it's like, okay, the owner's taking $200,000 salary or whatever, but you're asking for $2 million or, right. Some of that doesn't math out much. So, things got, like I said, it was, we needed money and it got hairy there for a little bit. And, the investors weren't going to put any more money in. Brandon and I had cashed out our 401ks. I sold my house up in the Tribute area and we had moved down closer to Knox Henderson, one for the commute, but two to also kind of have something to live off of at the time, because we had put all of our money into, building this company.
Yeah.
So we had pushed all the chips in. It was all or nothing. And we had never taken a dime out of it. Like I said, took out our 401ks and put all of our savings into this deal, to make sure that we could pay other employees. Right. And so, so yeah, it was, you're putting all your chips in for growth, and it's everything, employees, rent, you name it. Right. Yeah.
And so when you're scaling that fast, are you handpicking these people? Who's picking the people? How do you go about picking people?
Yeah. I think for the original fixed group, Brandon and I probably interviewed everybody. And then even throughout, probably up until the time that Angie acquired us, I would say we interviewed everybody. We would always have some sort of, blessing on who we hired or what have you. As the Angie, once that we sold to Angie, now you've got a giant company behind you, and you've got, I won't say an open checkbook, but you've got a lot of funds at your disposal to kind of do stuff with. Then we were able to kind of get into hiring that second tier of managers below us that could help do stuff. Right. And that's kind of an important, part. When you get to that point as an owner and an entrepreneur, then you can kind of take that step back where now you're not in the weeds every day, and you can kind of, make some decisions that are more, I guess, high level or long-term, so to speak, or whatever, versus, hey, so-and-so, is unhappy today and you need to go talk to them, or this happened over at this house and we need to fix this, or the software is broken. It's not doing, what I mean? There's some of that stuff you're in the weeds in because, you've been doing it for the whole life of the company. Eventually you got to hand it off. So that was a kind of a nice point, I guess I would say, and of the acquisition, of being able to kind of take a step back and have some, that managerial level below you where, they can make some decisions and you can trust on them to do it.
When you're picking somebody out and you're asking them to believe in the company the way that you believe in the company, are there certain traits you're looking for?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think our interview process, at least mine was, I think Brandon's was the same. And even today when I interview for stuff, I do the same thing. Is instead of asking questions first, I like to kind of give what the company's doing, kind of where we're going, what the vision is or whatever. And then I always like to see how the person responds to that, as far as whether it be ideas or connections to that, because then it helps me know if they can connect to like what our vision and what we're doing is versus, this whole like old school interview way that people are like, okay, tell me what are 7 things that make you great, or what, what's your biggest mistake you've ever made, or, you know what I mean? Like, so, I always like to get to know the person first and ask informal questions about their life, what they're doing, what they do on the side, what they do for fun. And then I like to kind of tell them what we're doing and then see how they react to it. Is that's my preferred way to kind of interview those people. Cause, it doesn't work all the time. I'll be honest with you. I think interviewing and getting the right people, as my boy Nick Saban would say, getting the right people on the bus is tough because, people can interview really well.
Yep. And
you honestly don't know until you get a couple weeks in or a month in or whatever, if that person's going to work out or not. And sometimes longer. So, Brandon and I always still talk about it today. It's like, man, I wish you could do trial periods with every employee.
That's the hardest part. It's like some people are slick. Some people got a pretty good game face, And so I feel like I can sort through most, but man, I've got caught a few times, and so that just is that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always going to happen. And you just kind of got to, again, part of being the owner or the final decision maker is you got to be able to kind of take those lumps and say, hand up accountability and say, all right, that was my bad. And let's find someone else and we'll move on,
Yeah. Yeah. But when you, in building your team, as you go to start looking for people, like there's keywords and buzzwords that I use or that I listen for, right? Yeah. Somebody uses the word passion, about something like, I can't teach you that.
Yeah.
But I can give you a lot of tools and I can get you going in the right direction, but I can't teach you drive and passion. Those are loyalty is another one, foundational type people where I want to have them in my group for a long time, I also look for people who have been there job history? Like, are you somewhere a year and 2 months? Or
yeah. Oh yeah, that's a big one. Are you bouncing around a lot? Yeah. And you can tell. I think you hit the nail on the head with the passion stuff. You can tell a lot by the way people talk or engage with you. At least I feel like I'm a fairly good judge of that. With, and it's not necessarily the eye contact more than it is just their overall, like, how do they speak? How, if they're talking about something that they've done, a project that they've done, are they kind of just talking about it like that? Or are they actually passionate about it? Right. Or
Let me tell you about this part. It's cool.
I can't tell you how many interviews. I mean, we're hiring right now for a videographer position. And, I can't tell you how many I've done where it's just kind of like, you gotta get more excited, man. It's like, this is you're creative. You should be, so I've got some good ones going, but man, it's tough when, you can read people and you just they gotta have that vibe or not,
Gotta have that fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, cause
can't teach it.
Yeah. You can't teach that. You got to bring that to the table. There's a lot of things you can learn, a lot of things you can get out of this job or this company, but I can't give you that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't teach the work ethic or anything like that. It's just people have it or they don't.
Yeah. So they give you an offer. Did you go in at what point? Like, did you know like this is a closed deal and you hang the phone up or you do something and you're like, hands up, deep breath.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
rounds on me, guys.
Yeah. So after that conversation where I'm sitting in the parking lot on the phone and here's your offer, it was, a couple more months. That was that was like December timeframe. And then we didn't close until January or October, November timeframe. We didn't close till January. So there was a few months of diligence still for them to do. And so, that's where I'll say, like, if you're watching this and you're an entrepreneur or whatever, it definitely helps to find a business partner that you can trust, that you can work well together. And it's kind of, play off each other, so to speak, because we talk about it all the time. There is no way that if I was the single owner of the company, there's no way I was going to be able to run the diligence to do the acquisition and run the company at the same time. It was just, there's just no way. There were some different life events that, it's impossible. Like, Brandon had his kid, it was prematurely born in Colorado at the time, right in the middle of when we're doing all this, and in Colorado. So, and they couldn't bring him home. So he was kind of living in Colorado and going back and forth. And I'm trying to just get everything organized and get it over to them, to IAC as quickly as possible to do the acquisition. And so your days are just, I was literally locking myself into a room every day, meeting with, the team at the acquisitions team, going through stuff. And then they'd give me another 30 items I needed to upload to the, drive for them. It's like, okay, then I got to work on that. I wouldn't leave until 9, 10 o'clock at night and just spend all day putting things together for them or finding, stuff. And so, I now I've gotten a lot better at organizing my own company's data rooms and stuff like that. So I don't have to go on those hunts anymore. But it's a process. And so very fortunate that, have that business partner to kind of help, he kind of helped continue to run the business. And then I was able to kind of focus on kind of getting everything we needed to them. And then, January time comes and eventually they just say, hey, everything's good. We're going to close this date and give us your wire info. And then that's when, shit gets real, stuff gets real. I don't know if cuss on here or not.
You're fine,
that's when it gets real. And so, that's another day I'll never forget, is locking myself in that room and, can't say how much, but the wire comes in to the bank account and you're like, holy smokes. All right. And now I got to get it all out to everybody. And so I was in charge of kind of the distributions to everybody that was on the cap table from the other investors. And we had given some of our key employees equity as well. So they all had distributions that they needed to get. And so it was basically me locked in a room, money comes in and then sending it all out to ourselves and everybody else and making sure that all the right amounts and all the right accounts and all that. And it was chaos and trying to get wire information. One of our investors from Dallas was just like, what's happening? We're like, we've communicated this for the last 2 months. Like, give me your bank account so I can send you this money. It's like, what do you mean? What's going on? So it was like, it was absolute chaos and phones ring. And it was a wild couple hours there. But
was there a signing moment, or was this digitally done?
No, all DocuSign and stuff. I think pretty sure. That was all. It was all DocuSign and everything like that. And then it's kind of surreal. Then you go home and you're like, oh man, it's
like, babe, I'm rich.
Yeah, we got money now.
Babe, I
finally paid for myself. Yeah, it's like all that, because bank account got low and it was rough. And my wife had gone back to work and it was we were renting a place mainly because we didn't really know where we wanted to live when we moved back down. We're kind of in between neighborhoods or whatever, but so we had been renting a place, and so it was kind of like, sweet, now we can go buy a house and get back to like normal life again. I've actually all those years of not taking a salary or now they're in the bank account. So
you have kids?
Yeah, 2 kids.
So did you have kids at this point?
Yeah, very little.
Okay.
Yeah, they were very little at the time. So they're 10 and 7 now. So one was brand new when all this was going on. The other was like 3 years old, I think, something like that.
So you start shopping around for what schools we want to get our kids in and where we want to be.
Oh yeah. Did the whole school shopping, ended up deciding on Lakewood, liked Lakewood a lot. Moved into a house there. And we kind of picked it based on the school district, but then, that my wife had gone and seen some of the other private schools and fell in love with one over there. And so they ended up, COVID happened actually at the same time. And the Dallas school that we were going to go to was not going to go back. And the private school was going to go back.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I don't know how long they're not going to go back to school for. So, and this one, the boys got in, or the Jack got in. So let's send him there. And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. That's kind of her domain. I'll let her.
She's like, I'm not going to work anymore. I can drive them.
Yeah. She's like, yeah. I was like, all right, whatever you want to do. So yeah, they ended up going there and they love it. It's a great school for them and they love it. So
did you have to stick with Fixed for a certain amount of time, or they just said, appreciate you guys, tip of the hat. Y'all go have a good time.
Yeah. There was an 18-month period. It wasn't really an earnout necessarily, but an 18-month period where
availability.
Yeah, we had to stay on and go through things. So we stayed on for that, and then eventually got into to a point during COVID where they were kind of pulling back from what we were doing. We had taken what we've done and basically scaled it across the country. So they said, hey, here's your budget and go scale this thing across the country. And so that's what we did. COVID hit and they had to, adjust what they were investing in. And so scaling Fixed was not one of those things. So they pulled back, and then, there was a little bit of disagreement, I think, from Brandon and I's side and some of the executives at the time on who's the actual customer here. If you know how Home Advisor Angie's works or worked at the time, pros would pay for leads, right? And then homeowners could put in just, free leads or whatever.
Yep.
And so the executive team at the time always believed that the homeowner was the real customer, but we had kind of believed after being there and working there for a while, the pros are the ones paying us. They should be the customer.
Or their marketing team.
Yeah, they should be the customer. Yeah. Let's do things for them. So we, all the tools that we had built for Fixed services that we were scaling across the country to have this national service company, kind of under the Fixed umbrella. We were like, let's give these to these pros. This could really help these guys' businesses. And, we presented it a couple of different times, always just kind of got shot down. And, with a publicly traded company, the one thing that matters is the stock price. And so that's the main driver. And so there's a lot of nuance there. But yeah, so eventually time ran out and I ended up leaving. Brandon stayed on for, I think, 6-9 months after that, but I was ready to go. Again, going back to what you're talking about with like personalities and that sort of stuff, I don't have, I think, the personality to be at a big corporation. It's just not in my blood. And so, I told our kind of executive or boss at the time, like, listen, hey, this is just not, it's not going to work.
Right.
You got, you guys can run without me. I'm going to, tip my cap and head on out. And so that's what I did. And there were some other things I wanted to get into. And so that's what I did. And then, ended up just kind of starting off some different businesses after that. But
well, let's talk about those. You jump. Once you made it, you're like, I gotta have some fun again. So
yeah.
Where'd you go?
Yeah. So after leaving, my wife and I had started, she got a real estate license and we started doing some spec homes, building some spec homes with a builder partner on the side. And that's been a really nice business. It's a hands-off one. So there's not a lot to it other than finding lots, and then you partner with the builder to build a house, and then you sell it and make a profit on it. Right. So, and we do that over in Lakewood area, and it works out really well. And the builder's great, builds beautiful homes and does it at a good price per square foot that we can both, if it fits within the investment box, works really well. So that was kind of the first company and thing we started doing, or that I started doing. And then, like I said, Brandon kind of stayed after me for a while. And then after he left, we got, it was like, okay, what are we going to do next kind of conversation. Right. And you start talking about different stuff. And so we kind of went back to, Caddie. It was one of the next companies we started. And Caddie is basically, we think of ourselves as kind of the Caddie to the contractors that we work with. We want to help them, caddy their way through the business life. And so we set up different, modules, or what we call clubs in the bag of different tools that they can use to help run their businesses. And so it's primarily on HVAC side, but it really applies to any home service company. We built, I started working on the software for our warranty product because we're very familiar with warranty. That's been kind of our career for the last 15 years or whatever. So we kind of built a warranty product that we could take to contractors, and then have since kind of done some white labeling of it. And we just launched a warranty program for a garage door company that they wanted to get into doing. So we built it, kind of took our software and tooled it for them a little bit. So that's been good. But yeah, so Caddie is we started doing that. Our non-competes, there was no non-compete on selling services to pros. Yeah. And so it was kind of like an unfinished business kind of deal. Like I said, we had built all these different tools for fixed services, and we knew they could be useful to other contractors. And so we kind of said, let's just do this. We'll call a company Caddie. We'll go Caddie for these guys. And obviously love golf. And so that was, it worked out really well. And from a name perspective. So yeah, that's what we started there. And so we offer different services outside of the warranty product. We've got, marketing, just general consulting, helping out on different stuff, accounting, bookkeeping, website, helping guys go online retail, all sorts of different things, jobs, and then jobs. Like we'll send them, we have the ability to kind of manage different job flow, and then or acquire job flow, and then we send the jobs out to the contractors. So that's kind of a nice business. And so we started that right out of the gate, or I started working on that right out of the gate. We've got a couple of restaurants. Brandon's it's called the Barrel up in Bartonville, and kind of the same time I started building Caddie. So it's like I went to work on building Caddie, and he went to work on doing the restaurant, and we kind of partnered up on those, and that's way up by him. So he manages that for the most part. And so, we built Caddie up and started doing that. And then eventually our non-compete ran out, and we started, so we're able to sell to homeowners again, home services and stuff to homeowners again. So we started a company called HVAC Home Supply, which is kind of an online retail, air conditioning, model where homeowners can go on, they can see all the pricing for all the equipment online. It's very straightforward, transparent. You can add installation, or if you have your own installer, you can purchase the equipment only. So that's kind of a cool deal. And that's one of the ways we get job flow for our Caddie pros is, we kind of, it's like a funnel basically. We know we're funneling different leads through this. When the homeowner purchases it and purchases the installation, then we send it out to our network. and then they can basically pick up the job and go fulfill it, right? So we're just kind of helping them. And that's really what we saw is a lot of the small to medium size contractors were a lot of the ones that needed the help.
Right.
And one of the biggest things they need help with is getting jobs. And so we're like, well, we know how to do the jobs. Let's get you jobs. And then as your company grows, you can start using more of our tools to help your business grow as well. So we work with all sorts of size contractors on that front. But so we've got that going. And
that's been running for how long now?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, about 2. Well, Caddie 3 years, Home Supply is still kind of in its first year, so to speak. So, and another thing that we do that we're strong believers in is that you have to kind of like, buy into your own business, right? And so when we have all these tools for Caddie, one of the biggest things is that we would need to make sure they work properly for the pros that are going to be subscribing to them, right? And so we always kind of use them ourselves first, right? So all the different tools, we've got a leasing program coming up that we're getting ready to launch. We have a workmanship guarantee program that we just launched on the Caddie front, where service companies can basically do their own workmanship guarantee, use our software instead of buying the warranties, which is a whole game changer for them, puts the money back in their pocket so they can reinvest it, make interest, borrow off of it to buy more trucks, do all that sort of stuff. It's an incredible twist on kind of what contractors are typically doing in the warranty business now. It's now opening it up for them to do their own workmanship guarantee. But so we've got products like that we want to make sure work correctly. So we do them ourselves first, and then we kind of put the club in the bag for the pros,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then during COVID, played a lot of golf because all the Caddie and the home supply wasn't there yet, but Caddie was going and I was building software and that sort of stuff with our guys overseas, and Brandon was working on the restaurants. And so I still had some free time. So, during COVID, played a lot of golf, and there's 5 guys out at Royal Oaks.
Only in groups of 4 though.
Yeah. Well, there's 5 of us.
Okay.
And so we played a lot of Wolf Hammer.
Okay.
And, we saw a need for, an affordable, really good feeling shirt, right? Good polo, right? That basically like what you're seeing in Peter Millar and Roback and, Holderness and Bourne, but not $115, right? Or $110 or whatever it is. And so we all played a lot of golf. And so we came up with the idea of like, getting some hats made with hammerback on it. Cause we all played Wolf Hammer all the time because there's 5 of us.
Yep.
And we made some hats up and started wearing them. And other guys in the club were like, okay, how do I get one of those hats? And they're like, oh, okay. So we've made more. Right. And then that snowballed into, okay, well, people love the Hammerback brand. Now let's try the whole polo thing out. Right. So we found a manufacturer overseas, started designing, found a designer that could create the tech packs for us. Tech packs is basically all your fits and trims and colors and all
materials,
that, everything. Yep. Yeah. And so found a manufacturer overseas and got some samples made, and we're like, oh, this is great. Like this is just like what you're paying $110 for. And so, we went full blown down that with that group of 5 of us out Royal Oaks. And, it's been a ton of fun. And, we were getting ready to launch the site, and I was like, I can't just have hats and shirts. So I found a company that does belts. And so we do the belts, and funny enough, again, one of those inflection points, the belts are like the number 1 seller that we have.
That's
right?
awesome.
So it's like, and it was literally, when I say last minute decision, it was, the site was ready to go and I could have hit the button to launch it. And I was like, we need one more thing, right? It just kind of looks bare with just the hats and the polos. And so got the belts in, and the manufacturer was able to move really quick for us. And so, that only took a few weeks. And then so I went ahead and waited and then launched it when we got the belts in and stuff. And so launched it about almost a year and a half ago, almost about a year and a half ago. And it's been really fun. We've done some cool stuff with that. And it's amazing to see kind of behind the scenes on what actually goes into creating, your own apparel brand, right? And what the costs are and all that. And I think that's kind of one of the, I guess one of my driving factors in all of our businesses is like, when you look under the hood at some of these companies, you can kind of see like what actually goes into it. What do they actually cost? where does the material actually come from? Like with all these other big companies. And it's kind of wild to see some of the companies out there that are charging a lot more than what they need to, whether it's in air conditioning or apparel or whatever. I mean, it's kind of wild, you know, when you see what things cost to see what other people are charging and stuff like that. So all of all the companies I have are, you know, primarily driven on the fact that it's the same quality products, high quality products, but at affordable prices, right? So Home Supply is the same way. It's the same top tier brand equipment that you can get anywhere else, but we've got it at an affordable price because, you know, air conditioning is already expensive, so it shouldn't be that much more expensive. And same thing with the Hammerback apparel. It's, you know, our polos are $75, belts are $50, $45. You know, hats are $30, and so it's, you know, it's all very affordable as opposed to kind of trying to go do that money grab type business model. So,
well, for those people that don't know, that don't play a lot of golf, explain the hammer and then the hammer back.
Yeah,
you know,
that's for those that don't watch. And TG, you know, what's funny is like now TGL's out. I don't know if you watch
that's cool.
But they use a lot of hammers now, and so I was like, all right, well, how do I get FedEx to stop promoting the hammer and to get us in there as the sponsor for it? But they have a bigger checkbook than we do. So that's why that was it. But no, so the way the hammer works is, the way I always describe it is, it's almost like doubling down. If you're familiar with gambling or whatever, it's almost like splitting or doubling down, right? So the way it works is you know, on any given hole, you start with a bet, like a base, right? $5, right? Okay. And so it could be, if it's just you and I playing, or it could be 5 guys playing, it could be whatever, but let's just say it's you and I for this example. And let's say the whole base is $5. We both hit our tee shots. We're out in the fairway. You hit your approach in, and let's say it gets real close. And you're like, oh, there's no way that I'm going to be able to hit it closer. So you can throw a hammer. So you say hammer, and that doubles it to 10 if I accept it.
Yeah.
Now, I may be in a situation, maybe I'm behind a tree, maybe I'm in a bunker or whatever, and it doesn't look like I'm going to make it, right?
Yeah.
And so I can decline it, and then now the hole's only worth $5, but you automatically win the $5, right? But if I accept it, then you finish the hole out. And so let's say I accept it and I hit my shot, and maybe my shot gets closer than where you're at, right? So now we're both on the green. I'm 3 feet, you're 6 feet, you know, whatever. I can hammer back. And so it's kind of the ultimate kind of what I call FU to the guy that thinks they got a leg up on you, but then you kind of turn around and put it back on them and say, no, not so fast, right? Like hammer back. And so then at that point you can take it or you can decline it. And so, as far as like golf gambling games go, and it doesn't happen a ton. So it's also pretty unique, right?
So a hammer, so someone has a $5 bet. They call a hammer, it's now a $10 bet.
$10 bet.
So a hammer back is now a $20
bet.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah. So it helps the pot grow, and it's also kind of like an ultimate, you know, like I said, get back at someone when it's when they think they've got you in a corner. You know, can you hammer back? Can you make that shot? That's kind of what we always base it off of.
There's a lot of people that also call that a press.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
But you know, it's really, really cool to see how that can turn into something else. And for the people that do know, they're like, yes.
The people that play golf, the guys that play golf a lot, that play the gambling games or whatever, when they see the hammerback, people immediately we'll go to I'll go to tournaments. I was at the Waste Management this year and wearing my hat and walking around and stuff. And, you know, you just get all these people just hammerback. Like, you know, people love it because they're like, we're still kind of an unknown brand, so to speak. Yeah. And, it's just kind of funny because the real, you know, kind of golf gamblers, they know exactly what it is, right? And it's kind of fun. Yeah.
It's for the guys who are niche to the niche.
That's right. Yeah. So, but it's been fun. And, you know, we made some mistakes there. And as far as, you know, ordering too much at the beginning and maybe not doing the right prints. And we did more stripes as opposed to prints and patterns and stuff like that. And so, there's, you know, like anything else, you learn as you go, but it's been fun, and it's been cool to see and been able to do some cool stuff with it. You know, we did a sponsorship at the Veritex Bank Championship last year where we sponsored the Caddy and Players Lounge. So literally bought some couches and a bunch of stuff, and kind of made the Player Caddy Lounge kind of a cool experience for those guys out at the Veritex Bank Championship, which is the Korn Ferry Tour.
Yep.
And they don't get a lot of that on the Korn Ferry Tour. It's not like the PGA Tour where they've got, unlimited funds to have private dining and all that sort of stuff. And so it's, that was fun. That was a cool experience to do that and kind of meet players. And now some of the guys that we met are on tour, and, some of the guys that won that week were their caddies were wearing our hats. And so there's a lot of cool, footage of the caddies of the guys that won wearing the Hammerback hats that week and stuff. So yeah, you get to do a lot of fun stuff like that. But
yeah, really cool. I mean, and so when you start talking about mistakes you've made, you got inventory you're holding, you're bringing in, you said there's 5 people that invested in this piece?
Yeah, 5 guys.
And at what level, and for the people that are thinking about starting something up like this, like what does it really cost to get something like this off the ground?
Yeah. It's, I would say go off of your minimums that you get from your manufacturers. We went strong, hard in the paint, as I'd say, and got a bunch. But, so it's, I think we did a great job, even though we overspent. I think, between the 5 of us, it was like $150,000 or something to get it up and running. Some of that's inventory. A lot of it was in the marketing. We made the decision to go direct to consumer, which was out of the gates, which was very expensive. Yeah. You're building a brand from scratch, and there's a million golf apparel brands out there. Yep. So, kind of going uphill battle with that. But it's also gives you some flexibility on kind of, how you're selling and price point and all that sort of stuff, as opposed to what they call green grass, which is kind of getting into pro shops. I think we're going to pivot and kind of go towards the pro shop avenue a little bit, still doing direct to consumer, but you look at like some of the brands out there, like Roback, for example, they're great example of like a direct to consumer brand, but their focus was on the content first, I think, and then the kind of the building the apparel second, because they put out tons of content, right? Yeah. And so we tried to follow that model a little bit. And, I'll say one of the things we did that we spent money on that was the best was our film crew and our creative agency, Future Fox out of Denver, Colorado. And they came out and we got set up on a course in Florida, and we shot all of the stuff for the website, all of our, clothes for the web, everything, right? From the product photos to, everything you needed for the website and videos, kind of a brand video. We did it all right on the shoot. And that was expensive, but well worth it. I'd say that was probably the best investment. I think we spent $60,000 on our initial order of polos, which we could have only probably spent 20 and been fine. So we overpaid for that. And then we had an ad agency that we were working with that, we had a pretty good sized budget that we spent per month on ads, and it worked well for a while. But it wasn't, when you factor in all the costs of shipping and everything like that, packaging and everything, it gets pretty pricey. And so their return on ad spend had to be pretty high to recoup our costs on it. So
what was your ROAS needed? Like 5, 6?
The minimum was like a 3. Okay. 4 or 5 gets us to where we're profitable kind of deal. But yeah, it was like a 3. And so those are just the things, I built pro formas for multiple years now. I had one of the guys in the group helped with it as well, and he's a big finance guy. And so, we built the pro formas, and there's always little things you don't account for, like the $1 per package fee that our 3PL was using. And, all these different little things add up that start eating into your, per unit cost. And so, it just starts to dwindle down. So being at that $75 price point, you got to be pretty shifty about it. And we kind of came out of the gates with, again, top tier ad agency, top tier, film crew that did everything for us, content crew. We had a 3PL that 2-day ships. So it's super quick turn time. That's more expensive. So, looking back, I would say, if I was giving advice to anybody, I would say, if you're going to start something, try to do more of it yourself. We all 5 have different jobs that we like day to days, right? I mean, I'm doing the caddy and home supply stuff and everything else. And so, my time in order to kind of package and ship stuff out myself is limited. And so is the other guys. So we kind of set it up to where we thought we could kind of it would be almost like a hands-off, set it and forget it type deal. But that's never the case with any business. And so there was actually a lot more hands-on that was required with it. But yeah, I think if I was going to give advice to someone that was going to do that themselves, I would say, try to do as much as you can by yourself first and be scrappy. And then as you see different gaps in your, whether it be the shipping out or whatever it is, kind of fill it up from there. But yeah, we probably could have gotten more scrappy, but there's 5 of us. And so, you kind of think if everybody's pulling their money together, let's just try to, we can put money on the 3PL. We can put money on this so we could have been more scrappy in that sense, but
some of that other stuff was just turnkey stuff was what you were looking for.
Yeah. So all the inventory just goes straight to the 3PL. They inventory it, they package it. It's connected to Shopify. So as soon as the order comes in, we don't touch anything. Yeah. So, I mean, in theory, it works really well when it works. The problem is you got to get the orders in there. And so kind of going back to it, the direct to consumer approach is tough because, you're starting a brand uphill battle. And so I think if we would have had more time, I mean, if it was my day-to-day job, I would have for sure, I think we'd be in a better spot because I would have focused a little bit more even on the content, activation events, doing some of that stuff that I think you have to do, going and getting affiliates or influencers, all those things that I think can help grow a brand quicker than just trying to do Google and meta ads, Yeah.
So what's your next move with that? Are you pushing it still? Or are you letting it ride? Are you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're pushing it. I think we're working with Veritex to go, or with the guys that manage the Veritex Bank Championship to do another thing out there. We still have inventory. That's again, with the direct to consumer approach, we're buying all the inventory up front. So, we're looking at bringing all the inventory back to Dallas. And so cutting the costs there. So right now it's just, we're kind of cost cutting and kind of going back and saying, okay, it was nice to be hands off, but we may have to like roll up our sleeves a little bit to make it work. Right. And, so it's just kind of normal stages of any business it's kind of meets a little bit of road bumps, right? You kind of you kind of stand back and say, okay, what pivots can we do to make it successful? Right. We talk about the attitude that an entrepreneur has to have. Stubbornness was one of the ones we pointed out. And I'm pretty stubborn, so I'm not going to see anything fail. I don't want to see anything fail. None of the businesses that I've owned have ever failed. So we got to push on, and it might take some more investment, might take some more, like I said, we're kind of trying to go back to the green grass route where maybe we look at going some pro shops. The beauty of that is that the pro shops pre-order all their stuff. So we don't have to go spend $20,000 on shirts, then try to spend another 20 to try to sell those shirts, right? And advertising. We can kind of go design something, get some prototypes, sell it to pro shops, and then they'll, they kind of pre-buy from you. So it makes
they ever have buybacks?
They do sometimes. It's funny you ask. One of the deals, which I don't know why it doesn't exist, I've just been having these conversations because we have inventory, is why not, in the HVAC business, there's, you talk to wholesalers that'll floor plan and stuff for contractors where it's basically like, hey, we'll come give you, 300 units and then you sell those 300 units and then someone will inventory for you or whatever. But, so we already have the inventory. So I've been talking to some of these clubs about, well, let us just come set up and whatever you sell, you keep your percentage and then give us, kind of like a floor plan consignment type deal. Right. Which doesn't exist today. Most the way it works is the pro shops will go and they'll meet with Peter Millar. They'll place their big order for the season, and then they pay for half of it up front. Peter Millar goes and makes it. Maybe they'll get the embroidery on there or whatever, and then they ship it to the pro shop, and then the pro shop pays for the other half of the bill, right? Which is great because then they don't have to worry about trying to go buy a bunch of shirts that they may or may not be able to sell, right? And sizing and all that. So, so it's nice from that perspective, but yeah, so I'm working on, and I got a couple of clubs that are really interested in it. So I'm going to see how that goes. Cause I find that to be interesting that they don't do that today. And so if you've already got an inventory of something and then the pro shop has the space, from a pro shop perspective, it's great. Cause why cut that 50% check at all? Just we'll come set up, you sell what you sell, and it may not have the, the logo embroidered on it, but not every shirt has to. So, yeah. So that's one thing we're looking at there, but.
Well, that's cool. So as you get into growth and stuff like that, you're just thinking of different models, different avenues you can get into. Because I know we have I put on a golf tournament every year. It's 13 or 14 years in a row now. We have 300 golfers that come in and play it every year. And so I have to get with you on maybe pairing up.
Yeah. And what you just mentioned, I forgot, custom polos is the other thing that we're doing. So we can basically print anything on the polo, right? And so that's one of the pivots that I'm making right now on the site, and we'll get that set up to where companies or golf tournaments and that sort of thing can order custom logoed polos, but it's not, the typical custom logo is like something embroidered on the sleeve or the chest, right? But it's a normal plain pattern or something. What we can do is embroider or print the actual logo on the shirt or
as a repeater.
Yeah. So we've done some cool ones like that. We've got an 8 beer shirt coming out for those guys, the 8 beer company, Troitman's beer company. We did every year we just did this year, the custom printed polo for it, but we do the Ryan Palmer's charity tournament out in Las Vegas, the shootout. It's on the Monday before the Shriners Open tournament. And, so we did a custom printed one with a bunch of different little Vegas icons and then the tournament logo. And so that's cool because then the people that are coming to the tournament get something that's a little more customized than, just a polo with the logo embroidered on it, which they've always gotten in the past. So, so it's a great deal for companies. We're doing stuff with some different companies that'll kind of put their stuff on there. We're going to do one for our restaurant. So we'll get some, we've got a Mexican restaurant that we're launching in downtown Denton. So we're going to do some, some tacos, tequilas and stuff like that, get the logo on there and sell that in the restaurant. Awesome. So yeah, it's a fun deal. I like those as well, cause it allows us to kind of come out with some different patterns and prints and stuff for folks. And it's, everybody's really happy when they get them cause it's pretty awesome to have like your own logo printed on the shirt kind of deal. So
that's awesome. Yeah. We're getting close on time. So I got a couple other questions to ask you.
Sure.
What kind of handicap we looking at here?
Oh man. It used to be a 1.5. Okay. I think if you looked at my gin right now, it's a 1.5. My son plays golf a lot and he's 10 years old. So I still caddy for him. And so I'm kind of like coach caddy right now. And my golf game is struggling. I played played 9 holes the other day and it wasn't that bad. The chipping is what goes away first. I had a lot of blades and kind of picked up because I was like, you know what, I got to work on my short game again. Yeah. Used to be a 1.5 though. It was got down there and now I got to work my way back. Got to get that short game right.
We'll have to go play sometime. I hate the gin that hangs on to you for forever. It seems like you take a bloody nose on that forever. Yeah. I've been a 2 forever and it's like, I feel like I'm a 10. It's like, why is this thing still lying over here? This is ridiculous. But
yeah, it's not accurate. I can tell you that. Yeah.
And everybody, once it gets down there, they want to keep you down there.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what people, like if we go play for money, that you can look it up now and it's like, okay, well, you're a 1.5. I'm not giving you any more than that. Like, well, wait till you see me on a couple of holes where I got a chip,
Well, I did say I was a 25 is what I meant to say when we started this whole thing off. Yeah. Whiskey, beer, craft beer, wine. What do you got?
Wine. Big wine guy.
Okay. Red or white?
Yeah. Red. Pinot, actually.
Pinot. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one of the things I treated myself to after we sold Fixed was a membership at a place in California. It's called Mayakama. And it's a wine golf. It's a club that was kind of built into the Mayakama Mountains and it's right there by Sonoma. And so I go out there quite a bit and, quite a bit, 4 times a year, but go out there as much as I can. And there's a lot of the winemakers in the Napa and Sonoma area are members here. So they have a vintners club. And so we get special deals on different wine and stuff like that. And so, yeah, big red wine guy, big Pinot guy. So I'm always, when I'm out there, I'm drinking a lot of Pinots and stuff, but stick to the red wine. It's fun. That's how our restaurant got started it was an old wine bar and Brandon was like, hey, we can take this space over. We can let's do our own take on it and just do a wine bar. And then COVID happened. Everybody realized you had to sell food if you had to get through COVID. And so it was like, we got a chef and then it turned into a full blown restaurant or whatever. But, it's the Barrel. It's got a pretty good little wine menu and speakeasy and stuff back there. But, big wine guy.
You got to choose one genre of music, country, rap, Old school rap, like classic rock, where you at?
Yeah. See, that's tough because I've got two. I would say a lot. It depends on my mood.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes it's country. I would say I'm 75% country, but then there's other times where you're doing
going
something.
hard in the paint.
I'm going hard in the paint. I'm going back to Birdman, kind of that old school 90s rap. And it's kind of fun because my 10-year-old's getting into some of that on the clean versions, obviously.
Okay,
but,
of course, for the clean versions, we promise.
But man, he'll listen to some of that with me, and it gets him pumped up. We go to golf tournaments, and he'll get into, he wants to listen to Eminem and some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I guess. I don't know if that's good or bad parenting, but
that's great parenting. Let me tell you something. My kids have always, we played it, we shared the phone, right? Like, you get 2 songs, I get 2 songs, you get 2 songs, you get 2 songs.
They DJ now. They love DJing.
And but you have to do it in order. No one can take it over. Like, you have to listen to my music, I have to listen to your music.
Yeah.
And I fall in love with some of their artists, and they fall in love with some of mine, right? And so it's really kind of cool because it's eclectic, sound that my kids are starting to, their playlists are just all over the board instead of just like same artist, right? So there's a lot of growth that comes out of that. And I remember one of my kids' walkout songs, was like Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival, when everybody else's was like this and this and this, right? Like I love rap music, like old school rap music, but when they walk out and they got something like that, and every other parent kind of looks down at you, and you're like, that's because I'm a good parent right there.
Show them the oldies.
Show them everything.
And my wife's good about that. She'll listen to a lot of classic rock with them and stuff, and they get into that in her car. They get the old school rap with me or the country.
That's the best.
But it's fun. It's fun.
Well, Evan, I tell you what, I thank you so much for coming down and being a part of this. Like, I didn't know what to expect. We had a mutual friend that kind of connected us on this deal, but you've done so much, man. And that's like really proud for you, and then the journey you've had. And
thanks.
Man, keep pushing. This is really cool.
Yeah, appreciate that. So, thanks for having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, everybody, until next time, that's the Blueprint. Peace.